4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
What's up, Minnesota Vikings fans? Welcome back to another episode of House Calls with Skol, brought to you by Minnesota Sports Talk. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Dave. Dude, first time talking to you since the draft. We haven't shared our thoughts together, so I'm excited to get to know what you think about this class. But how have you been? How was your draft experience?
I actually listened to it while I was Ubering, stuff like that. I listened to the whole damn thing almost. Just waiting for us to pick there and then trade down and trade for a quarterback, and I was waiting a long freaking time. So yeah, we didn't have too many picks, and but there's a lot of good things and there's some disappointments, but as usual, Kwesi picked nobody that I thought we would be drafting at any point during this draft. The only guy he's ever picked that I thought I liked and wanted to pick was Andrew Booth Jr. And that was a bust. So he doesn't need to take my advice on that one.
Dude, we talked about Donovan Jackson for like 15 minutes on our last show.
Right, you're right. We did that because we did draft him, but in like the second round, right? Like we traded down and drafted.
We traded back. Yeah.
We traded back. I remember that. We traded back and took him. But yeah,
and I believe I still predicted Derek Harmon over Donovan Jackson, but I did say that this is a guy that we have to get familiar with because I have I think he's just a realistic player for the Vikings to get.
I don't
right.
think he was that. When I tweeted, I might as well just talk about it. Let's jump right into it. I think during the draft, I said he was ranked 32nd best available player at the time he got drafted on ESPN when I was looking at the score. Now, I don't think he was a 55th ranked player by any means.
No.
I think he was in that ballpark, and I think it's a player that can start day one.
For sure. So one thing to keep in mind with those consensus rankings is that these draft minds are trying to rank all of these players in a vacuum without taking scheme into account. So how do you truly grade a player like Tyler Booker, for example, and Donovan Jackson? Because yes, they both play guard, but they are very different body types. Exactly.
Donovan Jackson's perfect, while Booker is like, hey, let's just put a big body in there.
Yeah, I actually have an inside source with some scoopage, and he says that they actually had Donovan Jackson rated above both Gray Zabel and Tyler Booker, and I believe it.
I can believe it. And because a lot of times you're looking at competition too, it's like, I mean, he switched out to tackle, and I think his first start was against the third overall pick. I just forgot his name. Abdul Carter, right?
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. So
third overall pick.
I heard today that like his first start at tackle was against Abdul Carter.
Yeah,
so
and he did
a level of competition that was greater than Zabel's.
Right, and I don't think the wide zone run scheme is going anywhere. I think that O'Connell still wants to incorporate that, with some gap, with some duo in the run game, but he wants that to be a part of the run game. And I think Zabel could have been fine with that zone running scheme, but Booker would not have been. So
now there's a lot, a lot of things that stood out to me about just looking at him is like, if he like, first of all, there's like the initial push, right? He's double teaming a guy, but he's looking and he sees someone cross his face. He is attacking when like an Ingram would literally stand there and not know what to fucking do. I'm like, see person, hit person. And that's Donovan Jackson. He does find that next guy. He does find that next level. If he can get to that next level, he walls off people. They don't move him. He's a wall. He does finish people. I like that. I think I think he's a perfect guard for our offense. And I think that's why they really had him maybe higher than other people's would have had him in the draft. And it wasn't the sexiest draft by any means, probably the least sexiest draft we've had in a while, but it's what we needed. We were talking about we need a left guard. There was a couple corners there that was like really intriguing. Might have been a little sexier of a pick. Their D tackles were gone. The ones we talked about were all gone. So yeah, I think it was the right choice to go guard there.
Absolutely. I just kind of want to talk about that a little bit more and how the board fell for the Vikings, which was not great. Tyler Booker.
It was looking great.
It was
and
looking.
Then Miami hit.
Yep. Tyler Booker went 12, which is pretty early for him. And it's fine that he wasn't necessarily like the guy that I think the Vikings were targeting, but still it's the guard position that went that early. And then to your point, Kenneth Grant went 14, and we had heard that teams liked him and that he'd probably go earlier than we expected. But that was tough because that was a key player that I really think the Vikings would have picked at 24 and not trade down. And then a guy like Zabel went. So now the Vikings are really sweating because in my mind, the only two other guys that you're probably sticking and picking are Donovan Jackson and Derek Harmon at that point.
Yeah,
and
Derek Harmon went really,
he goes 21 to the Steelers, right? And then at that point, the Vikings are probably getting the same call that the Giants offered to the Texans right behind us, which was trade back to 34. We'll give you a like 101 or something like that, and a future third
next year.
No, you're talking about the Falcons. So the Falcons,
they did too, though, didn't they?
No, the Giants trade was they traded back from 25 to 34. They picked up 101 and a future third round pick.
Oh, okay.
So they got 2/3 and moved back to the second round.
Okay, so it wasn't as crazy as I thought I heard when the draft was happening.
Now, when the Vikings were on the clock, my source says that they were between Donovan Jackson and Will Johnson, the corner. And our medical staff had cleared Will Johnson's knee situation.
Oh, really?
Apparently. Yes.
Because I was sitting there talking about corners when we're messaging back like the three corners are still there.
So there was discussion with the Vikings about sticking and picking Will Johnson, but Kevin O'Connell reportedly was the guy that said, no, we're going offense here. This guy is going to complete our offensive line and get this unit to where we need it to be, right? And now it's probably a top 3 unit because your weakest spot is now just straight and narrow left guard in Donovan Jackson, who doesn't really have a real weakness. I mean, he's good at everything, right?
Yeah.
He's going to start out as a rookie and he's going to struggle with little things, but I mean, he's got a very high floor as a starter. And
the only thing I saw, and I think you saw it too, is like he reached, but I think he was only doing it. He was only having that flaw when he was playing tackle. When I saw him playing tackle rather than guard, and honestly, it was after he dominated the guy. So it wasn't a huge flaw. Like he walled the guy, and then the guy backed off, and then he lunged for him, and that's what I saw as a flaw. But the guy had no chance of making the play, but I saw it a couple of times. But I'm not too worried about because he was doing it at tackle and not guard. Guard, it just seems like he was walling. Now, I'm not going to lie here. You've heard me talk about Kwesi, and we pick a type. And first thing Kwesi says to him when he gets him on the phone goes, you remember that song I had you pick? You remember how I talk about that? Where it's like you're already telling him your question, like your interview question. So everybody that's going to come in to talk to Kwesi is going to know that you have to have a song and a reason why and it's a good, and if he likes your answer, he's going to consider you for your draft. And that's, I just can't. He picks players by their
no, he doesn't.
Song.
No, you put way too much into that. He doesn't pick a player by his song. He's picking a player because he's a really talented player. He connects with a player over their song, but he's not picking a player over his song. I'm sorry to disagree with you, partner.
Him asking there's a question, there's a purpose for it. I'm not saying he's picking specifically on a song type. Otherwise,
there's a purpose for it, but he's not crossing the guy off their list because they like Linkin Park or something.
First thing he asked Scene was, remember that song? Same deal. Same first round. I just hear it all the time. It's the first thing he says to his first round pick when he gets
Yeah.
him on the phone.
It's clear that Kwesi holds music near and dear to his heart. That's his passion. Like, that's his escape from football. And so he probably connects with the players on a personal level over music. And that's why he likes to talk to them about that, especially since, JJ McCarthy's Bob Marley. And that just represents JJ so well. He's such a Zen personality. And he brought that up with him as well. Like, it doesn't bother me. I can see how it bothers you and how I just think you put way too much emphasis on it. He's not, let's say Donovan Jackson and Will Johnson are tied and he's picking Donovan Jackson because he picked a better song. That's not how this is working. So I personally don't care. But I mean, that's just Kwesi's thing, I guess. But I feel you on it, partner. I understand that it's like, that's your nails on a chalkboard thing, right? Like, it just drives you nuts. Like, every phone call starts out with, and hey, that's your song.
The song we chose?
Yeah. It's all good, dude. Hey, we're only 11 minutes in, but extend Kwesi, dude. I'm really happy.
I'm there too, man.
I am really happy with how the draft turned out, and we'll break down the rest of the class here in a second. But when you look at the draft grades, first of all, we talk about this every year. I don't care about draft grades. I don't care if the Vikings get an A+. I don't care if they got a D. Thor gave him a D. I love Thor. I respect the hell out of his opinion. That's fine. I don't care that they got a D. Here's the thing. It was a boring draft because they didn't have a lot of picks and they didn't have a lot of high picks, right? So they picked a receiver in round 3, which we'll talk about, which I like. And then it was like a bunch of shot in the dark type of guys. But I did really like Kwesi's golf analogy, and I'm a big golfer myself. And he said that their goal this draft with their limited picks was, let's just be safe. Let's hit it in the fairway, right? Which I'll say as a golfer is harder than it sounds. All right. So it's hard to hit the fairway sometimes. But Donovan Jackson embodies such a good 7-iron off the tee. Let's just put one in the fairway and put ourselves in a good position, because he has such a high floor. And I just really have a tough time seeing this guy bust, because he's such a different player than an Ed Ingram. He's super athletic, smart, high character football player, flexibility, can play in space. You were talking about him lunging a little bit at left tackle because he's more in space. At guard, I don't think that's going to be an issue, playing in more tighter quarters.
And again, it was after he walled the guy off and dominated.
Right. So put him between Christian Darrisaw and Ryan Kelly. Dude, this offensive line, how can you not be excited about what the Vikings have going on?
They talk about, what a JJ McCarthy having like a great situation. Well, this Donovan, Jackson has a great situation of being between those two, even though, Darrisaw hasn't been a Pro Bowler yet, well, it should be, 2 Pro Bowlers on either side of him. So yeah, he's got a great situation.
What's up, Skol Mafia? Welcome in, bro. I want to talk about the Bears for a second here. Shift gears a little bit. You remember how scared I was that they were going to get Genty?
Yeah.
And that's all we saw the day of the draft, by the way, is, Bears are going to find a way to go up and get Genty. And I think they would have if the Jaguars stayed at 5. I think the Bears had something cooking with the Jags if the Jags are going to stay at 5. Now, my theory is that the Jaguars really wanted a wide receiver in the top of the draft. And I think plan A was trade up and get Travis Hunter, who can be our wide receiver and our corner. It was super interesting how Gladstone, their 12-year-old GM, was talking about Travis Hunter like he's going to break football, because they're going to get a top 10 corner and a top 10 wide receiver playing both sides. I will love to see it. Please let him play both sides. That'll be super fun for the NFL. But when they were able to move up to 2, I think the Bears lost their trade partner for Genty. And then the Browns moved back to 5, and they wanted to stay. They didn't want to move too far back, so they wanted to stick and pick there with Mason Graham. Then the Raiders were on the board, and it was put up or shut up time, right? Because everyone was like, yeah, I don't think the Raiders will actually take a running back there with all the needs that they have. But I was always pro, hey, I think this kid's a superstar, and I'm willing to bet that NFL teams also think that, and they're not going to let a superstar fall to 10.
Cleveland fans are mad as shit.
About losing out Trevin Hunter.
Gonna get Hunter, and then they pass on Genty. So they're pretty pissed.
So this is interesting because Matthew Collar on his show today with Chris Trapasso, they were talking about the draft compensation. And at the time, I was like, oh, dude, there's no way that you can say no to a deal like that, right? They moved back a couple spots to 5. They got a future first and a second round pick. They made out on that deal. But then Collar said something like, when you look at the number 2 overall picks in all these drafts, there's a lot of Hall of Famers that come from like the second overall pick. When you look at like 5, it's much more rare. You'll get a good, really good player, but it's hard to get like the Hall of Famer type of player, like franchise changing player. And that was interesting to me. Like Travis Hunter might be that type of franchise changing type of player. So maybe that capital, which looked good on paper, maybe it won't look so good a few years later if Mason Graham turns out to be like a good defensive tackle, but not like a game changing defensive tackle, and Travis Hunter breaks football. You know what I mean? So we'll see. But anyways,
He's
go ahead.
probably got a unique talent. The fact that he's probably Pro Bowler potential at both positions.
Yeah.
But they're going to start him off as receiver because of the complexity of the offense, and then they're going to wean him into the cornerback position. And in the NFL, you can't play 60 and 60.
No.
There's talk about 30 and 30, right, on each
Put
side.
him in third and long. Put him on their number 1 wide receiver on third and long or something.
Yeah.
But my theory is that if the Jaguars didn't trade up to take Travis Hunter, they would have traded down with the Bears, and I think they would have aimed to get Tet McMillan, which he didn't make it to 10. So maybe they had to have made a trade up at that point. But that was my theory, is that they would have traded down with the Bears. So fast forward, that board did not fall well for Chicago at all. So Genty went, and then all the tackles went before the Bears pick. So they were essentially looking at a board of wide receivers if they wanted to take the second best wide receiver behind Tet McMillan and Travis Hunter, I guess, or tight ends, or like a defensive tackle if they wanted to take a Walter Nolan that high or something like that. And apparently nobody wanted to trade down. I do think that was, they probably wanted to trade out of that spot, but they couldn't. So then they took Colston Loveland, a tight end, who was the second rated.
Who can't block. He's mainly a receiver.
He's just a receiver. Yeah. Think TJ Hawkinson coming out, like not a blocker. And, a lot of people had Tyler Warren ranked higher than him. And
that's what they were talking about during the draft on the radio, at least on NFL. Or I guess at that time I was watching on a YouTube channel. I don't have cable. So they were talking about how those two were like who would go first, and Warren was kind of what they were leaning on, and then the Loveland got drafted right then, and they're like, whoa, they were pretty shocked that he went that high. But I did hear that a lot of people were trying to trade up, and once Loveland got picked, they stopped calling. So apparently there was other people really wanting him.
Interesting. So my issue with taking a tight end in that 10 spot, that top 10 pick is a very premium pick. Now, I will say that it seemed like the talent really fell off after like Tet McMillan there. So I think the Bears kind of hit a tier drop off, which kind of sucks for them. But top 10 tight ends don't really hit historically well. And they typically take 4 to 5 years to really develop tight ends. They usually say that you're grooming the tight end to hit for the second team, much like TJ Hawkinson. Kittle took a long time to get going. Kelsey took a long time to get going. This might be a pick that us as Vikings fans, we don't really have to fear for a couple of years here. So I don't know, just kind of a questionable pick in my opinion from Chicago. I think he can be a good player, but I think it's going to be a while.
You think it had a lot to do with the offensive, minded head coach and grooming your, quarterback?
Yeah, I think so. And then a lot of people are like, oh, well, here's this Sam Laporta, but he's not Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta can block. You know what I mean? He's a bigger dude. Also, Sam Laporta was a second round pick. He was not a top 10 pick. So I don't like it, man.
Well, speaking of, since we're talking about tight ends, I'm shocked, honestly, the tight end that we have. So the key thing about, and I saw this, and I noticed, is like we have very athletic type guys we drafted. Like they're all athletic. To find out later that they're the Vikings have the second highest athletic score of combined players in the draft. Um, well, some people might be drafting linemen and might not be having a high score, but when you're two, something must be right that they draft a lot of athletic guys. And our tight end Bartholomew is an athletic dude. He's an athletic dude.
Yeah, I saw a highlight where he jumped over a guy on the sideline
Oh
and scored a
yeah,
touchdown.
like a swing pass on the right side, and he takes it to the house after hurdling a dude.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's I didn't get to see anything where he was mossing people or anything or using the red zone. Haven't seen any of that yet. Stuff I'm interested in because we've been bad in the red zone. This guy's 6'6", long, got big hands. Yeah, vertical's good. Very, and they do say that he's a blocker. I seen him listed at 230, but then I seen his draft profile is 246. So
Hmm.
that ease my concerns about his size. But people say he's a blocker too. He can block.
Yeah, the
So
Vikings desperately needed to take a tight end somewhere in the draft because they only had two guys in the roster, Josh Oliver and TJ Hawkinson. So now they have that draft pick, and I think they brought in two other undrafted free agents as well, who are going to have a good shot at trying to make that roster. As a 6th-round pick, Bartholomew is going to have to prove himself. He's not going to be handed a spot. So that's pretty interesting what they're going to do there. And they may bring in a free agent too. Keep your eyes out for that.
well, we need the next best third tight end in the league, and maybe it's going to be Bartholomew.
Real quickly, before we move on to the Vikings' second overall pick selection, which was Ty Felton, I do want to talk about the rest of the NFC North in the first round. So the Packers broke the streak since 2002, longest streak of a team not taking a wide receiver in the first round. They took Matthew Golden at 23 overall, 4.2 speed, very fast guy. Any thoughts on him? Did you do much homework on him?
I started. So when we I think they picked right before us, right? They were
Yeah.
23.
Yeah.
And I said I knew it, and that's who I was thinking. They're going to take a receiver, and I think it's going to be Golden. And I texted you, I knew it. And I was watching video going up to that because about 5-10 picks earlier, it was like receivers. I'm looking at them, and then I come across, I'm looking at Golden, and I'm like, this guy reminds me of route running of Jordan Addison. Like he has a good route running tree. I didn't know he was a 4.2 though. I knew he was fast, so might be a little scary.
I thought it was 4.28, maybe it was 4.38. Either way, he's fast as hell. He's real fast.
Oh, he's a fast guy, but his route running is actually what's really impressed me. Yeah, I said, hey, Packers finally drafted a number 2 wide receiver. Now all they need is a number 1.
Yeah.
So that's my joke. But honestly, he looks pretty good, and he reminded me a lot of Jordan Addison.
Okay. So he's going to be a faster Jordan Addison then, because I think Jordan ran like 4.4.
Might be.
All right, so we'll see how that turns out. And then finally, the Lions. If you ask me, the Lions had the worst draft of the division this year. I did not like their draft at all. And that starts with Tyleik Williams, the defensive tackle they took at 27. I think they picked 27 overall or 28 overall, something around there. And this is a run-stuffing defensive tackle. He's a big man. He's awesome against the run. Don't get me wrong. But there is zero pass rush ability in there. And I don't really think that he has the capability of really developing that part of his game. So for me, he was a prospect I did not want to see in Minnesota because like he was more of a late second, early third round prospect to me because you can find dudes who block running lanes like shit. They're all over the place, man. So it's for me, it was a hard no. I don't like the pick for them. I thought it was a little early. I thought the board fell really rough for them because they also were probably on Donovan Jackson. They probably wanted Derek Harmon. Neither of those guys got close to them. And then I'm guessing they weren't offered a trade down opportunity, or they probably would have traded down. Your thoughts on Tyleik Williams to the Lions?
Well, once all those tackles went and they drafted a tackle, and I'm like, why'd you draft a tackle? It's And there was players that I didn't want them to draft, and they didn't draft them. So I was pretty happy that they went that
And then
route.
there was a kid, I think his name was Isaac something. He was ranked.
Isaac Tesla,
Yeah, he was
wide
ranked.
receiver, Arkansas.
He was ranked way late on the consensus board, and they gave up like 2 third-round picks or something like that to go up and get him. And a lot of people hated that move, and they were like, "I don't get that. He's a height, weight, speed guy who doesn't have any production." But apparently, Brad Holmes said that this was my favorite wide receiver in the draft. He said, which is a wild statement. So I said on Twitter today, if Brad is right, if he nailed this one, he's a fucking time traveler, and you can't convince me otherwise. Because nobody drafts that damn well.
Time traveler. That's hilarious. I am now going to watch video of Isaac. Well, with a name like Tesla, you might be a time traveler. Oh, he's white.
So let's get into Ty Felton, 3rd round pick, 2nd overall selection for the Vikings. I think it was the last pick of the 3rd round, pick 102 overall. What's up, Dan? Welcome in, buddy. And I was excited, man, because you guys know me. I'm a Matthew Collar fan, and he's team pick wide receiver all day, every day, take a wide receiver all the time. And he's got a great point because you do not find wide receivers in free agency. If you want a wide receiver, you either have to trade for one that's pissed off, which is going to cost you a lot, or you have to draft one because they're not in free agency. Dudes like Brandon Powell, like these no-name guys, they're making like $10 million in free agency to be like wide receiver 4s. It's insane what that market is looking like right now. And so Ty Felton, 4.3 speed, 6'1", kind of a slender guy, 180 some pounds. I believe he broke the Maryland reception record this year at like 96 receptions. And some of that is through like tunnel screen type stuff, but he's legit a vertical threat. I saw a lot of routes on tape where he runs post routes and beats dudes. He wins on curls. So I want to look into Matt Harmon's data a little bit on him and see like what he's good at in terms of the route tree stuff. But I was super happy with the pick. I think that he has a lot of raw tools and special teams capability. He can return. He can be a gunner. And with his attitude on his call, he said, I'm going to do it all. And then finally, I just trust Keenan McCardle to pick guys because he doesn't miss, dude. We've been fire with him as a wide receiver coach. So, Dave, what are your thoughts on Ty Felton?
A quick thing on Isaac Tesla. He does remind me a lot of Adam Thielen. He does.
Okay.
Yeah. But not too fast, but doesn't have any misplaced moves. You know what I'm talking about? And catches with his hands, gets beyond receivers. He looks sneaky quick. That kind of player. But yeah, Ty Felton. Once we picked him, and I'm like, I wasn't really looking at a lot of receivers, right? Because our receiving class. And I was looking for like that water bug type dude we get like really late. We ended up getting one in the UDFA. But when I got him, I'm like, holy, this guy's super fast. He might be the fastest guy on the team. Once he's on here, Speedy Naylor didn't run a 4.37 at the combine. So he might be the fastest guy. But the thing that stood out to me the most, besides he catches with his hands, but besides that, I'm not saying he's an incredible route runner or anything. I didn't see that per se, but his fight, he's a dog. He fights for every yard. I think this guy is going to be an excellent special teamer. And I'm not talking return guy. He has returned punts before, but I just feel like he might be a gunner for us. He fights for everything. And I think forget which coach. I think it might have been O'Connell. It said that you'll not see another guy in more in good physical conditioning than this guy. And that's what I'm hoping for is players that want to work. And I think this guy can work. And I think it was smart if you really liked a guy, and apparently our wide receiver coach really liked him. And he was pretty excited when they drafted him. But that this guy stood out to them, and all of them to a T was talking about how he fought all the time. He fought for everything. He fought on every play. blocking, yards after catch. So this guy, he's the type of guy, and this is a pretty much a paraphrase quote that he fights and he might break it. He'd be the type he catches the ball, he's fighting, he breaks it. And that's the type of player I saw in the highlights. And it wasn't just a bunch of bubble screens. Again, they did have a lot of jet sweeps and stuff like that, but great. I want a guy that can do that. And again, he don't look 187 to me. He does look physically strong player, and when you see him fighting for those extra yardage, you're gonna see how strong this kid is at receiver.
Yeah, man, he has legit tackle breaking ability to where I forgot who it was. Maybe it was Thor compared him to Luther Burden. Great pick by the Bears in the second round, by the way. Really like that for them. Makes me wonder if maybe DJ Moore could be a trade candidate at some point this year, because Ben Johnson did kind of call out DJ Moore a little bit with a comment about we need our receivers to run just as hard, even though they're, they may be the third progression in this particular play, but I need them to run the route hard. And I think that was a little bit of a shot at DJ Moore. But anyways, I think it was a great pick by them. But yeah, Ty Felton, I think there's some skills to tap into there that this kid could legitimately develop into wide receiver 2. And if that happens, the Vikings might be in a spot where they elect to trade Jordan Addison down the line for some capital and let this kid take over as wide receiver
because of the contract that he's going to be
right.
needing, or he's going to get.
Yeah, just purely based off numbers, nothing to do with the talent or
the
off-season issues. No, it's just a football construction exercise, right? Like putting cap dollars to good use.
Bynum, right? But I think as far as position rankings go, I would say Jordan Addison is better than Cam Bynum is at safety.
100%.
That's how I feel about it. So this guy's going to get some money.
Yeah.
Coming up here.
And I will say that I am a part of the crowd that I think the Vikings can pay Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison if they wanted to, by the way, with a quarterback on a rookie contract. So I think it's possible. Shit, the Bengals are doing it, right? Like, it's possible. Stephen B says he's not a fan of taking Felton. Let us know why, Stephen, because we were just talking about how we both were a fan of that pick. We both like that pick. I think that
the type Vikings, of ball player he is.
Yeah, and I think that he can be a contributor this season for sure. Of all the players that were available around that pick, I think he's probably one of the players that can contribute right now more than a lot of the other players that were on that board.
Yeah, I think for sure right out of the gate, he could win the third receiver job. I think he's good enough to win that. And if we upgrade third receiver, even though I'm a big fan of our current third receiver, I'm just saying that I think he has more physical talent and ability coming out of college than he had. So I was like, if this is an upgrade, it's an upgrade. Throw in the fact that he's returned kicks before, and he's also, I just think he's this prototypical gunner. I think he's going to come in and play gunner for us.
I think the Vikings really wanted to upgrade special team return game. They were pretty much dead last in both kickoff and punt return last year with Brandon Powell. And they brought in a couple of guys now, Ty Felton being one, the undrafted free agent. What's his name? You did some work on him. Silas.
Yeah. Shit.
That's another guy that can return. So I think that was a big emphasis for them. Another thing to keep in mind, guys, is that Jalen Nailor is in the last year of his contract, and I don't think they're going to pay him. I do think that he's good enough to warrant probably $10 million on someone else's roster. So this guy, Felton, he can be wide receiver 4 this year, step right into wide receiver 3 going forward. Remember, you're always looking out 2 years ahead for your needs. So, again, another reason why I was perfectly fine with Ty Felton in the 3rd round.
So I went to look for his name, but yeah, he called it Silas Bolden from Texas, who also was at Oregon State? I forget. But I think he would, but he's got to make the team.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? He's got to make the team. Would he win out the 5th receiver spot? Or are we just going to carry 5 receivers and a guy that just returns punts. Is that going to happen? We'll find out. We have kept 6 receivers before. If that's the case, it's really good, looking good for Silas Bolden. But I said this, Steven, that Silas Bolden was my favorite UDFA pick, and the main reason is because his return ability. So I'm high on him to make it out of camp, and we'll see once he gets to camp. But I really liked his skill set.
Yeah, I agree. Steven says his biggest knock regarding the Vikings draft was that they didn't take a single safety or a cornerback. And that's interesting because in the first round, when we were on the clock and I was sitting there, I had 2 names in my mind, Donovan Jackson and Malachi Starks. Those are my 2 guys. I would have been happy with Malachi Starks there at 24. Did you come around on Starks, or were you kind of hoping?
Oh, I came around on Starks.
Okay. Yeah. So I love Starks. I thought that him landing in Baltimore is super fun. Him and Kyle Hamilton in the back of that defense.
I
Bro,
like this guy.
that safety duo is going to be an all-time safety duo. I love that. So
later in the draft, Xavier Watts went a pick right before us.
I will say, though, that in the alternate universe where the Vikings take Malachi Starks there, I would not have felt like very good about Brandel at left guard, and there's no other guard that we would have gotten there.
You feel better about the team taking Donovan Jackson, right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm happier about this. Steven's pissed off that Watts was sniped by Atlanta in the 3rd round. I was too. Watts went 96. The Vikings then went on the clock at 97. I remember Steven being pissed off on Twitter about why the Vikings wouldn't trade up. I don't know if they had the opportunity to jump up 1 spot and get him. That tells me that they obviously didn't care that much about Watts to get him. Maybe not. But I did like Watts. I think he's a ball hawk out of Notre Dame.
I know a lot of Vikings fans are like, Watts still there.
I also think that the Vikings kind of predetermined at that 97 that they were trading down, that they needed more picks, and that was the pick they were going to trade to start accumulating some more draft capital. So this happens every year, by the way, where we kind of fall in love with some of these names in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th rounds, whatever, and the Vikings don't take them, and we get super pissed off when realistically it doesn't matter that much. But it's the draft; it's fun. We get pissed off.
People were really upset about Kobe Bryant.
Yeah,
and we didn't draft him, and we also didn't get him as UDFA, and he goes to the Packers.
I heard there was Falcons. I heard there was some character concerns with Kobe Bryant, so probably not a fit with our defense.
We have a type, right? I feel like we have a type, and if because you look at all our players in interviews, they're all pretty good guys. They're all like, they're all like nice guys and good interviews and stuff like that. They're good on camera. And it's like, I feel like we want that personality that's going to mix with the team as much as anybody. And I'm thinking if we didn't draft this guy and everybody had a draftable grade on this dude and he fell to UDFA, got to be something wrong with him. You know what I'm saying?
No, you're right. Daniel says the Vikings used that trade to get Sam Howell. They actually moved down with their 2nd pick of the 5th round. They moved down 30 spots.
They flipped picks like 30 spots. I think they went from like 2nd to 5th, 40th or something like that, or I forget what it was, but it was pretty deep. But yeah, they flipped 5th round pick.
Yeah. Daniel, I don't think you were here when I was talking about it earlier, but the Vikings, according to a source that I had connected to somebody in the draft room, the Vikings were between Will Johnson at 24, and Donovan Jackson. And they did clear Will Johnson's knee. They felt comfortable taking him there, and they elected to go with Donovan Jackson. All right. So,
and I was texting Skol Doc, the 3 cornerbacks left, 3 cornerbacks still there. 3 cornerbacks, 1 gets taken. There's 2 still there, and we passed on both of them.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy how far Revel Jr. dropped. Wasn't he a 3rd round pick?
And I'm like, Revel's there.
We were all about it. We were like, trade down, get Revel ? But yeah, that this draft, and it goes back to what Steven was saying. This tells me that the Vikings really do like their secondary. They feel really good about Isaiah Rodgers. They must feel really good about Mekhi Blackman. And Byron Murphy Jr. So
Yeah, we didn't wait around for that pick, did we? Daniel noticed that. We picked really fast. We didn't. I think that's who we wanted. Yeah, no question about it.
So the Vikings' next pick then after Ty Felton was Tyrion Ingram. What's his name?
Tyrion Ingram Dawkins.
Yes. Super athletic kid, 9.8 RAS, kind of a tweener, 270 pounds, kind of small for a D tackle, kind of big for an edge rusher. Didn't really start for Georgia all that much, but did get in rotational pass rushing type things, rushed from all over the defensive line, wide 9, defensive tackle, 5 technique, everywhere. And based on his interview, I like the makeup of the kid. He understands that he's got a long way to go to develop into what this team's going to need him to be, and he's ready to attack it. And this is just a ball of clay for B-Flow to get his hands on and work him in probably early this year on some stunts and twists like that, using his speed to go around on the inside. But I like the ball of clay that he is, and where you got him, I think it was good value.
So this just cements my thought process with B-Flow. Maybe Bryant falls to us. We don't take him because he doesn't take big ass D tackles. And this guy to me looks more like a 3-4-3 defensive end. But again, it's who are we playing this week with B-Flow? And this is a guy that'll get in there. I think one of the coaches call him a 3 technique or a D end. I think that was Quasey actually who said that, a 3 technique or a D end. I can see that him coming in as a pass rush specialist, but alert, he's a hell of a good run defender. He is very good at holding off a guy and then making the tackle, or getting a little push and making a tackle. Now he's not, again, he's not going to be. I don't think he's going to be. That's going to be his main thing. I think it's going to be the pass rush. He is not. He is quick. He's not like a speedster, but he is quick. He runs like a 4.7 something.
Yeah,
but he's quick, and when he made his sacks or he kind of like crossed him over, like Allen Iverson type thing. He didn't. It's like the guy went and just felt the air. I don't know if he has the hands yet. He doesn't play with heavy hands at all. He's not that type of player.
he doesn't have
rely on
moves.
his quickness.
Yeah, he doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have any pass rush moves. He's just flying
really
around. Yeah.
So that's like he says, ball of clay. When you have the athletic ability and the football knowledge, I think they can get something out of this guy. And I feel like B-Flow's got a type of guy that he likes, and I think a guy that can get upfield, and that's the guy he saw in here. But the cherry on top is that he is a pretty damn good run defender, in my opinion, when I seen him play. So when you've got highlights on run defense, as a pass rusher, I'm all for it.
Yeah, for sure. Next pick after him was Kobe King, correct?
Yeah. 6, 201st overall.
Kobe King, rock solid linebacker, 2-down linebacker for where you drafted him. Needs to improve his coverage ability, but from a run defender, he was second in college football from a PFF grading standpoint. Graded out athletically fine. I think he's like an 70 or 80% athlete. So I heard a lot that, he was a steal, and a lot of teams were surprised that he made it that far. I really think he's a lot like Ivan Pace Jr., just a bigger dude who can play well against the run.
I don't think he's as shifty as Ivan Pace Jr., but he has that ability. I saw he was like sneaky getting in there. Like,
he's a thumper, dude.
Good timing, and he has patience. I thought, and then he picks his spots, kind of like Ivan Pace Jr. does. I don't feel he's as kamikaze like Ivan Pace Jr. is, but again, it's more solid all around, or solid, first and second down linebacker. Good depth piece for us, and again, he's probably going to be a hell of a good special teamer. Guy's a sure tackler. Mm-hmm. Guy's a tackler. He can tackle. He gets after it.
Yeah, I mean, starting out as a special teamer and a backup linebacker. He's making the team. 100% he's making this team.
I would think he has. I think all these guys honestly make the team, just because of the spot they're in. We were short at off the ball linebacker. We needed a tight end. We got a tight end, and then I think Dawkins is just going to fit in that rotation just fine. And then Ty Felton, we feel like I think could easily become our third receiver right out the boat with potential of being a 2.
Yeah, I think he'll be wide receiver 4 because they love Naylor.
Yeah,
but he's gonna be used.
He drops a few. You might has a bad game. You might see Felton more.
Yeah,
and that's happened.
And then finishing out the class, Bartholomew, the tight end. You've talked about him earlier. He's a route runner. He can catch the ball. You said he was 6'6", 250. So
246, yeah.
246. You said people were saying he can run block. I didn't see much about run blocking.
So I haven't seen any actually physical run blocking, but the analysis when he was getting drafted and the way that people talk about him, I've been listening to the NFL Network for like fucking 5 days straight here and all day on Sirius XM radio. They talked about how he can do both. I don't know. I haven't seen it with my own eyes. His highlights are just all receiving, but he catches with his hands. His quarterback wasn't all that great. Getting it to his chest. He's getting a lot of low balls around his waist. He was still catching them with his hands. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I want to see more if I can find him in the red zone and stuff. But a lot of stuff's in midfield. But you brought up one play where he got a pass and actually hurdled a dude and went the house with it. So guy has ability. He runs a 4.7 something. But he's got long speed. I think it's not like he's got quick speed, but he just looks like a good pass catching big tight end, and by big I mean tall, 6'6". This guy could easily put another 5 pounds on, maybe even another 10. But I wouldn't want to get him too big because he just looks really athletic and a good receiving tight end. Kind of reminds me of Graham, remember from the Saints?
Yeah, Jimmy Graham. So we'll see, man. The team, like we said, they needed a tight end 3, and they brought in a couple more tight ends on undrafted free agencies. So spots wide open for someone to go up and grab it. So overall, again, I hate grading the draft. I really do, because who knows, right? But overall, 30,000 foot view, they didn't have a ton of picks. Part of that was because they borrowed capital from this year to move up last year to take Dallas Turner. And also to kind of, give yourself some flexibility to get up there and get JJ McCarthy. So taking that into account, next year, Steven mentioned that they're going to have 8 picks. I think they're also going to have 2 comp picks on top of that. They may have 10 or more picks next year. So it's going to be a little bit more exciting, give us a little bit more to talk about next year. But I love Kwesi's analogy of hitting it down the fairway. I think it was a very safe, boring draft. That is what the team needed this year.
It was I want to say it's a meat and potatoes draft for us. It was very filling in the needs position, which you don't often see. And it kind of coincided with their draft board as being best player available. Donovan is probably Jackson is probably the day one starter at left guard. He's got to be.
He's got to be.
He better be, honestly.
Better be.
Otherwise, people would be, pitchforks and fire. But I feel like Felton and Bartholomew will all be playing. Who else? Who was our third pick? Tyron, and I think Dawkins will get in there. I think he'll get in there, or he has the ability to get in there. But there's some guys he's fighting with. There's some UDFAs from last year that he's going to be fighting to make the team. Mm-hmm. But being picked in the 5th round is not a lock by any means. But I feel like Donovan Jackson, Ty Felton, Kobe King, Bartholomew will all be guys that either be the day one starter in Donovan or a special teamer. Or rotate, and I think Felton's good enough to be wide receiver 3. So all these guys, I feel like,
can have a role
in those spots or create a depth that was needed, especially with the future of Jordan Addison and Ty Felton. And then the lack of tight ends on the team, and Bartholomew and the weak spot at off the ball linebacker. Remember, we had guys go down for several games at that position last year. It's
Mhm.
good to have him because I'm not sold on Asamoah anymore, right?
Yeah.
Asamoah's on the bubble with
He
that
might not
pick.
make the team. Right.
And he's on the bubble with that pick.
He's a good special teamer, but yeah, man, I agree 100%. What I want people to realize is that in the alternate universe version of this, where they take that draft day trade with the Giants and move back to 34. Let's say they move back to 34. They take Will Johnson there. They pick up another third round pick this year, and let's say they take, I don't know, I have no idea. They just take some flyer there. Maybe they took Watts, the safety there that we wanted, or something like that. Um, Dude, there's a reality in that universe where Will Johnson's knee blows up and Watts misses, and we're looking at like another 2022 type of draft class, and it would just been a terrible situation. I like that they just kept it safe this year, and they took the day one starting left guard at 24, who has a very high floor. It just feels right to me. Like this was the
I
right
forget.
move.
Someone sent me something that said we were we were ranked 32nd. Our draft was ranked 32nd. I'm like,
Dane Brugler, he
I'm
ranked
like,
us
okay,
32nd.
whatever. But it's just because we had fewer picks than everybody
Yeah.
else, and our first pick's guard.
If you look at Dane Brugler's breakdown, it was like, I like this pick. I like this pick. I like this pick. Oh, that's a good pick too.
But
Yeah,
they're the
they're
32nd
32nd
because they're the
because they had
Vikings.
a 5-person draft class. That's why they had the small. I think they had the smallest draft class. So that takes into account.
But throw in Sam Howell. We didn't talk about him. So when he got drafted, that class, I felt like Sam Howell was the most pro-ready quarterback they had. I didn't think he was first or second round talent, but I just felt like he was coming out of college more prepared than all the other quarterbacks. So I felt like he would have been a good guy to draft late to back up Kirk Cousins. I felt like there was a lot of qualities there that would just suit him backing up Kirk Cousins. And at that point, we didn't have any really good backup at the time when we were drafting. So I really liked the fact that we could have got that guy. And when we passed on him, I'm like, it sucks. But I like having him as our backup now, and he's got starting experience. It's not like he was complete shit at Washington. But now it's just another quarterback reclamation project that we're gonna find out here. And I like that we got him free. Basically, we traded 5th-round picks and pretty much got him free. And this tells you a whole lot. We're picking in the 5th round, and who's there? Shedeur Sanders. And I don't know how many Viking fans 2 years were telling me about it. Wait till Shedeur Sanders come out. We need to get Shedeur Sanders. He's sitting there, and we could have drafted him, and we didn't. And we traded to get Sam Howell. I feel, at the 5th-round pick, it's just known that you're going to come in and not be our starter, right? So you're going to be sitting behind us. So that seemed to not be in our plan. And Sam Howell is the guy, and I like Sam Howell. I do.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's gonna be in this league.
My standpoint is if your backup quarterback is to play, you're probably screwed anyways. But Sam Howell has experience playing football in the league, which is a plus. It's kind of like that scene from, I think it was the Avengers or something, where Thanos asked Loki, like, you consider failure experience? And Loki says, I consider experience. Yes, I'm a nerd, everybody. What's up? So that's kind of Sam Howell there. But it's fine. And you got him for nothing. You traded down 30 spots in the late 5th round of the draft to pick him up. And the beautiful thing is he cost you nothing money wise. He's like $1 million. And he's going to be a guy who, shows up in the quarterback room and shuts up and lets JJ McCarthy do his thing as QB1 and isn't trying to really push for time. And he's going to let JJ take all the reps this spring. So beautiful move. I love it.
Good move.
It's fine. If JJ goes down, we're screwed. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe KOC's got another, magic rabbit to pull out of his ass.
And Xavier Watts gets drafted 138 right before us at 139. Is that how it happened? Or no? I forget. Was Watts in the 5th round? When did
Watts,
Watts go? Xavier Watts.
Xavier Watts, 3rd round, 96 overall.
Okay, that's when we traded down to.
I'm not bitter about it. I don't.
Okay. That's when we traded down and got Felton at 103 or 102.
102. Yeah.
Yeah. What's up, Grandizer?
Grandizer loves Donovan Jackson. What a player to get. He could turn out to be one of the all-time Vikings greats. I love the optimism, dude.
You know what I like?
Love it.
He's in this limousine or whatever, going to wherever he's going, and he actually references Randall McDaniel. So that was pretty good.
Hold on. Was Randall McDaniel literally the last first-round guard that we've drafted? Is that accurate? I thought I heard that on the broadcast, and I'm like, is that real? Holy shit. I did like, by the way, that Kwesi basically came out in his presser and said that if you look at the free agent deals that these guards are getting nowadays, it's never been closer between tackle money and guard money. And teams are starting to look at guards as quote unquote protectors, like the whole offensive line. They're looking at these guys as protectors, right? Because the defensive lines or the defense in general is getting really good at attacking your weakness, whether that's in the middle or your tackle or whatever. They're going to find a way to exploit that person. So you can't have a weakness across your 5. Like we had Garrett Bradbury last year. He can't pass protect. We got rid of that weakness. So I thought it was interesting that he basically admitted that. And it wasn't just the Vikings who took a guard in the first round. The Cowboys took one at 12 overall, right? The Seahawks took one at 18 overall. These are really high picks for guards. So, 24 overall, I can live with that.
Yeah, the center from Ohio State went undrafted.
Seth McLaughlin, your guy. He went to the
Cincinnati.
Bengals. Yeah, so he's going to have a redshirt year. Good pickup for them.
Which I thought would have been great for us. You'd have been put on the DL for the entire year.
Jake Majors went undrafted too. He had a lot of experience as a center at Texas. I'm going to look up where he went.
I know you said, who'd you say had a bad draft? The Lions, and I think they drafted Rutledge.
I did not like the Lions draft, and
I think they drafted in the 4th round or something like that.
They took him in the 3rd, I think, and I do like him. Like he's athletic, but he's not a day 1 starter. Like if that was the Vikings' plan to take him and try to plug him in at left guard, would not have liked that. Jake Majors signed in with the Buccaneers. Dude, I really, really liked what the Buccaneers did. Adding Mbuka, that wide receiver. They're just stacking Baker with weapons. Love what they did.
Oh.
Who beat up a teammate? Daniel, who are you talking about?
He beat up which guy? Logan Brown? So I just watched the highlight film of Logan Brown, and some of his highlights he was overrunning players. And I'm like, why is this a fucking highlight? So I'm not too sure about him. But maybe it's a good project.
You know what? It's kind of funny. Daniel says he beat up a teammate, and the first thought in my head is, oh, good guy with a mean streak.
Yeah, cool.
Offensive line scouting. Let's transition.
We were only taking him like in I forget what round it was when he was dropping in our we weren't even really looking at him on this show, but I think we might have drafted him once.
Let's transition to some JJ McCarthy talk, because he did talk to the press today. And did you see the throwing session? Did you see some of those throws today, Dave?
No.
So I don't want to overreact or anything when I say this, but I saw the throws, and we're winning the fucking Super Bowl this year.
You know what I was thinking today? I'm like,
what?
I know people are like, oh, it's all right if we don't make it to the Super, if we don't make it too deep in the playoffs. No, we got a fucking good team now.
Yeah.
JJ needs to meet he needs to come up here with the talent we have on this team.
Yeah.
It's no lie that this is everything about our team is a Super Bowl contender, except for the question mark of is JJ McCarthy ready? I feel that's the only downside right now, or the only question mark. Well, will Donovan Jackson step up and be left guard? But even then, the team is good enough, right? That's the way I feel. This team is good enough. We're deep at almost every position. Let's go. Let's go for it. But yeah, fucking go purple Kool-Aid on me, man. Let's do it.
So here I'll I'll send this to your message so you can watch the video. I just sent it to you. By the Beat members accord, they all got together and kind of talked about it after the practice. And the number one thing that they all said was, number one, this kid has a lot of zip on the ball, which we remember from training camp. It gets from point A to point B quickly. They said, based on what they could tell, footwork looked like it did in training camp. Like he looked fine. Accuracy looked good. And just from a general standpoint of carrying himself in the presser and talking to the media, they said still A+. Like this kid gets it. He's mature beyond his years. And I think it was Kevin Seifert asked him, like, the first question, you ready to start? He goes, I know I'm ready to start. Let's go. I'm ready to go. He's just oozing confidence.
JJ McCarthy was built in a lab to play football. Honestly, the more you look at his history, there's only one point, and I can understand why he did it, that kind of had any sort of question mark for me. But I know why he did it, because it was more of a trust thing with Ohio State. Like he was told that they weren't gonna sign another quarterback, and they did. So he went to Michigan and stuck it to him.
Yep.
Which you might think, well, why didn't he want to go to Ohio State and compete? Because that's where he wanted to go. No, I lean to the side that, hey, he was told one thing and they did another, and I think it was COVID was happening, whatever. Let me go to Michigan. They didn't lie to me. That's the way I felt about it, and then he stuck it to him.
Mm-hmm.
So and he did.
Yeah, man, it's exciting.
I guess the guy that was drafted in the third round by the Saints, not the Saints, the Cleveland, broke the record for the fastest throw in the combine.
Yeah.
And then the guy in the third round that's got drafted ahead of Shador. So I guess that guy's pretty solid arm, but he's like 5'11". But JJ McCarthy, 6'3". He was a little thin. He gained the weight back. Looking strong. Everything tells me that this guy is, a preparation hound and going above and beyond, learning from other things other people are doing, like the goggles with the Jaden Daniels was doing in college and stuff like that. He's taking it all in. I think that we obviously showed faith in him. We turned down a Hall of Famer that was willing to come play for us for $10 million. And we think that much of JJ McCarthy that we said no. So
yeah, one thing I got to talk about here before we end this episode is, and I've been pretty vocal on Twitter about this, I'm adamant that JJ McCarthy is in a better position this year in 2025 to have a better season than Caleb Williams in Chicago. Yet, all we hear about in the media is Chicago this, Chicago that, Caleb Williams this, and JJ McCarthy is it. He is set up to ball this season because he's familiar in the system, right? He did not get many snaps last year in the system, but he's ready to go mentally. He's ready to hit the ground, get all these reps in the springtime. In Chicago, Caleb Williams, yes, they improved their offensive line. So did the Minnesota Vikings. They improved their wide receiver unit. It's still not as good as the Minnesota Vikings. They improved their tight end room. Still not as good as the Minnesota Vikings, right? They improved their head coach. Still not as good as the Minnesota Vikings. You see where I'm going with this? JJ McCarthy is set up for success in a way that is above and beyond what Caleb has in Chicago still. And he's going to get his respect when he starts showing people what he can do.
And JJ can throw on time, and Caleb can't. He's a hero ball player, and and that's the thing with the new coach coming in. It could be a square peg in a round hole type of situation. We'll find out. Obviously, he has the athletic ability. He could train himself to do whatever he wants, but that wasn't him for college. Now he's got to go in and go, okay, and I got to deliver the ball on time. So it's again, you said it. You said it all along that best situation for a first year starter. I think you even went as far as Mahomes, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, seriously.
You had a lot of talent.
Now we have a full offensive line. It might be the best, man, in a long, long time.
Yeah, when Mahomes first started KC, they didn't have a great offensive line.
No. JJ McCarthy set up. I mean, KOC says it all the time that teams fail quarterbacks. The Vikings have set up JJ McCarthy with a model here where if JJ McCarthy fails, it's on him. And we as fans should be able to live with that. If he's not good enough, he's not good enough, right? And that's unfortunate, but we have our answer. And I'm not saying year one, like it fails, throw him to the curb. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is over the course of his rookie contract, we have now as a team provided him with the necessary tools to go out there and succeed. And now it's up to him. And I think he's going to do it, honestly. Like he's just made of the right stuff. I think he's going to be fine.
I already put on my rankings. The Vikings are going to win this before the draft, and I still have it after that. We're going to win the division. I went Packers, Lions, and then Bears. And I said the Lions are going to have a drop off because I don't think it was their head coach that was the reason why they're winning as many games. I think their assistants were that good. And they do have the talent though, so they can overcome it. 3 teams can still make the playoffs. And of course, I still have the Bears last because they're the turning over a coach, and then how is Caleb going to play? Now it's a new system. It's like they didn't develop them. They're actually restarting his training.
Yeah, and Ben Johnson is a first-time head coach.
Yeah, they're restarting Caleb Williams. So that's how I feel about that. Oh God, what was I going to say? I can't remember. But the reason why I really wanted to sign Justin Jefferson to extension is because if, knock on fake particle board, JJ McCarthy did not succeed, like you were just saying, that we could trade him easily away for first round picks, and we could restart getting a new quarterback with a team that's still pretty deep. So that was one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to re-sign Justin Jefferson, is because, hey, if JJ McCarthy didn't pan out, it's possibility. I don't think that. I think he's made up. I think he's got physical abilities. I think he's got scrambling ability. The study habits are there. So, and I feel like a lot has to do. You could have all the physical ability in the world. There's players that have physical ability, but if they weren't in the book, or if they weren't learning in every practice, Tom Brady was practicing like it was a fucking game. And that's what I want to see from our quarterback or players. When you mix that elite, Tom Brady was not an elite athlete. He doesn't even have necessarily an elite arm, but he was good enough, physical ability. And then he had the study habits, and he was a coach on the field. And I want that to be hopefully JJ McCarthy. That's that's the ceiling. I think that's the ceiling on him.
I am so bullish on this roster right now, pending health, of course, right? You never know what's going on with health, and there are some risk factors with this team with health. Looking at our older defensive tackles or Kelly or Fries on the offensive line, that there are some legit concerns with health with the free agents that we brought in here. But if it falls in line and people stay healthy, this team is good enough to go to the NFC Championship game, in my opinion. Like I expect them to be there. I think they're going to be, like you said, the cream of the crop in this division. So I'm excited, man.
I feel like we're a better team this year than last year, and we won 14 games. Do I think we're going to win 14? No. Tougher schedule, but 12 isn't out of the question. It all really depends on how JJ McCarthy steps up and plays within himself to get started, just grows in the position throughout the year. Jaden Daniels didn't start out great. Denver, that quarterback didn't start out great. They were pretty, he was sucking pretty bad to start the year. And everybody was like, I told you so. And then what, then they made the playoffs. So it's like, just grow at the position. That first game might be rough. That second game might be rough. I can see us. The greatest thing about this team to help out JJ McCarthy is that our defense make stops after his screw ups, and he won't be down. He won't have to get down. And I don't think he's the type of guy to get down on himself, but that watching that defense pick him up, much like occasionally he had to pick up Sam Darnold, even though he tried as much as he could in that last game to lose that game. I tell people all the time, it's one of the worst offensive performances I've ever seen by a quarterback, was that last game against the Rams. But I don't think JJ McCarthy will do that. I think he sees the field better than Sam. I think he's more decisive than Sam. I think he's more mobile than Sam. I compare his scrambling ability in pocket to Pat Mahomes, but he's faster than Pat Mahomes. This might be a special type of player. There's so much good things about JJ McCarthy, and I know people are down on him, but I did a poll. 95% of the people that I polled wanted JJ McCarthy to start during the whole Aaron Rodgers shit. 99% of the people are on JJ McCarthy to start. Let's go.
Let's go, man.
I think the fan base, the team's behind them. They're benching Sam Darnold on Twitch to stream him to JJ McCarthy. They're playing with him in Madden, so let's go.
Let's go. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. That's going to do it for our episode with House Calls, brought to you by Skol Doc, and joining me as always was Dave. And yeah, man, great episode. Broke down the draft and some JJ McCarthy. It was nice to see him throwing, getting him back into practice. And there's a lot more where that came from, with OTAs coming up and some more highlights to be talked about. So thanks again for joining us, Daniel. We'll see you guys next time. Grandizer, thanks again, buddy. And Dave, I will see you next week, my friend.
Skol.
Skol.